This afternoon we're interviewing Coach Tom Arima. He's gracious enough to interview with us, and you know what we're going to do is we're going to interview you about your days at Belmont and growing up in the neighborhood, and then we're going to play this at the 40th, our 40th reunion, class of '67. So we really do appreciate you doing this with us. I know it was like pulling teeth, but so we're happy that you're here. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you attended school?
Okay, I was born in Lawndale, California, on a farm. Then the war broke out, and I was in Santa Anita for about 3 months, living in a horse stable. Then I went to Roar, Arkansas. Then I went to Tudor Lake. Then when the war ended, I went to a place called the Gardenia's Buddhist Church, lived there for 3 months. Went to Gardenia High School as a sophomore. Played baseball, JV baseball as a shortstop. Then my dad moved us as a family, to Bridgeton, New Jersey, called Seabrooks. I went to Bridgeton High School in my junior year. But during the summer I had a job at the factory, Bird's Eye frozen food, and I tore my hand. You can see my hands all lacerated here. So I couldn't play baseball at Belmont in my junior year. But that's when I was really shocked that I had to wear slacks, sometimes tie and shirt, coming from California. And then here I'm a Buddhist, and then I had to listen to the Lord's Prayer, and so I had to learn the Lord's Prayer, because every morning home we used to salute the flag of the Lord's Prayer. So it's a culture shock, the way they educate back in the East. Then my brother, oldest brother, was drafted in the service, so I got lonely, so I came back to LA. So we went to the place on Weller Street, a hotel where there were a lot of bed bugs. And my brother and I were bitten so bad that my dad took us to the ocean to try to take the itchiness and the swelling away. Remember that. And then we moved to Boyle Heights for a while, but I didn't want to change any more schools, so I kept going to Belmont on the streetcar. So Belmont was a real nice place for me, because all the new students coming from different parts of the city or the state or the country had a special homeroom for all the new incoming Belmont. That was my 11th grade. And my senior year was very good. In between that, I went to summer school to Poly, take chemistry and algebra 2. So my first senior year, B12, I went out for basketball, C basketball, and my coach was Panino. And then in the spring, I went out for baseball, and I was on Panino's baseball team. I was the pitcher. I started as a shortstop, but Monica Gonzalez was there, Bob Takasugi, maybe you know Belmont grad, who's a federal judge, and looked over the DeLorean case. He was on third base, so I was the pitcher. And that's when I lost my dad in that particular year. And it so happened that they gave me the MVP award, Scholar Athlete Award, which was very shock to me, because they had a good half miler. I think I knew probably Panino, and they argued about, here this guy's an all-city 80 man and all this kind of stuff. And we didn't win the championship and all that kind of stuff. But I think the thing that turned the table was probably the academic aspect. So I had that little trophy. It's very dear to me. It's one of my first awards that I had. So that's my up to high school. Now what do you want?
Well, when you went to Poly,
Right.
that's
Summer
Trade Tech
school.
now.
Right.
Because
Trade
the
Tech.
Poly that we know is on the Valley, but the Poly you went to
yes, it's
was downtown, where LA
Tech's
Trade
on
Tech is.
Grand Avenue in
And
Washington. It was a nice school, similar to Belmont. I think they're quite similar, because they had a multi-ethnicity.
was Belmont quite as diverse then when you were attending school as
yes,
it
it's
is?
quite diverse.
A lot of different cultures. And
Right. We had Koreans there, because a fellow by the name of Stanley Chow was the opera singer. And we did have all kinds of different ethnic groups, mostly Chinese people from Chinatown.
you had some Italian though that lived up there on near
Right by
Sunset.
Chinatown, right?
Yeah.
So they had a
lot
choice,
different.
you could go into Belmont or Lincoln. Then we had to fight to get some of the good kids from the Marshall area, you know, our rivals there. And if they want to come to Belmont, they come. If they want to come to Belmont, go someplace else.
Yeah.
That's what we felt about it.
Yeah.
Because when I Well, I shouldn't be getting into my personal kind of thing. Well, the reason why I'm living here instead of Alhambra, because they said we don't sell to Japanese.
Back
So
then.
I came here, and the reason why I came here was Coach Bauer was coaching at Belmont. He and I were teaching together, and I co-signed him for it in his house there, and then I bought the house.
No. After high school, where did you attend college, and how did you decide to get
Okay.
into education?
All right. When I was at Belmont, Mrs. Harper was a very good counselor, very personable person. And I qualified for UCLA GPA-wise, but I had no finances. So I went to junior college, LACC, floated around for 3.5 years, taking courses and working, because I had to work. And the second year I went to Cal State LA for 1 year, half a year. Then I transferred to UCLA, and I guess that was 53, okay, 53 and 54. And since I was living with my brother, then I moved into a Caucasian's house, a makeup artist for the studios. I lived there as a houseboy. I cleaned the house, washed the dishes, made the beds and all that kind of stuff, and I had a gardening route along with that. So that was my life. And I used to change my clothes, go into the gas station, change my clothes, go to work, come back, change clothes, go to night school, and that's the way I survived away from college. And applied for a scholarship at UCLA. They gave me 1 year, so book and tuition, so that helped. So then I was a science major, because if you had a pre-med major, you cover all the sciences. Could have been a pharmacist, and my brother wanted me to be a dentist to specialize in orthodontics, so we could both open an office together. But it didn't work out. I didn't make it, so I got out at bacteriology major, and be a lab tech, and I didn't want to do lab tech work. So I went into teaching, and that's how I got into teaching.
Was Belmont your first assignment?
Now, what happened was, they gave me student teaching at a junior high school, Emerson Junior High. Because I was so small compared to the rest of them, they think I wouldn't be able to handle the high school. And so when I applied for the district, my papers got messed up, so I never got the assignment. So they put me on a substitute poll basis. So what happened then was, the director of student teaching, that was a liaison between the LA Unified and the UCLA, asked where I was teaching. I wasn't teaching, I was just substituting. So he told me to go see Dr. Smith, who was a science teacher at Lafayette Junior High School. And she had a lot of people that were Oriental, and she liked them, that they were very conscientious. So I went to go see her. Same time I went to go see Panino, and they chewed me out and said, "When the hell have you been looking for, you know, that kind of stuff. They don't want you to take the BNC basketball." And in order to get to the high school at that time, you know, for me to transfer, because I was a long-term sub, and I went to, I went to Carver Junior, sent me to Jordan, they sent me to Washington, all those places, and I ended up at Hollenbeck. And I was wondering why a teacher was sitting in the back. But that was a vice principal, see if anybody would attack me or anything. You know, 'cause they ran so many teachers out here. That seemed to get along pretty good. And what happened there was one of the leader of the group that harasses the teachers. I went into the counseling office, looked up his record. So happened his dad was working at the what's that place, Roger Young's?
Auditorium.
Auditorium.
Yeah.
There used to be a restaurant there.
Yeah.
And he said, worked over there, so I told him, "Hey, I understand your dad would look like this. How'd you know about that?" And then everything went smooth. So everything was going good. We went on the hay ride for the junior high school, you know how that goes. Teeny hop dance, and the home economic teacher would invite me to the lunch and all this kind of stuff. So they wanted me to stay to a certain extent, but I wanted to get to the high school because it would have been a pretty nice situation. So what happened is I went to Safeway Tech. Remember telling you that? Safeway Tech. You know where Safeway Tech
No.
is? Okay. There was a Safeway store right next to LACC and Cal State LA, where Cal State LA just started out. And they had this extension classes there on the weekends. So that's where I went to get my driver training certificate and safety education. So that's why I went to Safeway Tech and got my credential to get to the high school. And so when I get to the high school, what do I teach? Driver's training.
Well, you taught a lot of different subjects
Right,
at Belmont.
I sure did.
Can you tell us a little bit about all the different things that you did
Well,
there?
mathematics, I taught in the math department, the science department, social studies, I had senior problems, contemporary American problems, and driver's ed, health department, and what was that counseling course that we had to take?
It was
We had to give the career education.
right?
Career education.
ECP.
Yeah, then I taught health, and I was a grade advisor, evening counselor, a counselor. What else was
Foreign
there?
language?
Yes, taught foreign language. I taught 1 year of Japanese. Let's see, then the coaching part, I think I coached varsity basketball. And the picture you see, the 67, that was in the Japanese American National Museum. And the reason why it was there, because they did a little series of sports in the Japanese American community. It so happened I was the first Japanese American hired by the LA Unified as a head basketball coach. Although there was other head coaches at Montebello, there's a fellow by the name of Kobayashi, head baseball and head football coach that was there. And I'm sure there's other coaches in the other area, but as far as LA Unified, I believe I was the first one.
Tell me a little bit about the people that coached you that you had an opportunity to go back and work with, like Millard and Panino. And
Well, I think it would be Millard. I did not, he wasn't my coach. My coach was Panino in basketball and baseball. But when I got in, they were so good to me. They adopted me as a token guy coming out of the non-PE area to put me into the PE department. And very nice of them to let me come in. And so I was quiet and just watch and listen. And they were a very tight unit. And Mr. Millard, I owe him a lot because I think he may be my substitute father. Because I never,
yeah.
played for him or anything. He used to take me to surfing, but I didn't care for surfing in the water because we had Coach Bauer, and he's the big football player, Stan Friedman. We were trying to get the boat out the surfboard, we go flipping around. It was too much fun. But the reason why I had fear of the water, because when I was youngster before the war, we used to go to the beach, and 2 of my brothers almost drowned because of the undertow. Riptide, so that scared me. My brother was a swimmer, so he knew. And so that I was a little afraid of the water, so I stayed away from him. But he took me skiing, and he invited me to Sun Valley. I used to go visit him every Christmas. So the basketball coaches and the team would get upset with me because I wouldn't be here Christmas time, because I go visit him.
Millard.
Millard, Sun Valley. And we would go out skiing during the Easter vacation to Mammoth, and locally. So he really took me in. And one time, I'll tell you a story where we were skiing at Baldy, and he would introduce, because there were not too many Orientals skiing at that time in the 50s. Introduced me to Chikigaya. You know who Chikigaya is? He's a Japanese Olympic skier. Here I'm in a raggedy old hand-me-down ski outfit, get in the ski. We go down, we're falling all over, Bauer and I. Those were really fun days. So we had a lot of fun in that regard. And Panino used to take us fishing. And Millard also took me fly fishing. And he taught me how to enjoy life in terms of going to nice restaurants, which I introduced to my kids. But sports and eating good food and nice places are 2 of the things I think my kids probably learned from me. But that's one of my things that I enjoy. So.
You also got the chance to work with a guy named Dentler Erdman.
Oh, I think he's probably the #1 teacher of all time. Such a dedicated person. I think he probably was my assistant coach without giving the title, because I used to confide in him, we used to confide in each other. And he knew the kids from a different aspect, from the sports aspect, he's from a human aspect. And he even helped my kids grow up. He's helped a lot of kids. I think he had more impact on the student body at Belmont than anybody that I can think of. He was a great, great man. They should name the business education department
After
Dentler. After him.
Yeah.
They should put Panino's name down in Millard. Those are 2 of the icons that should be mentioned someplace. because we only have 4 physical education department. Another one is Jack. I think Jack is
Hansen.
another great. He's probably the same mold as Erdman. Tremendous educator, tremendous human being. They're both on the same shelf. Probably Jack had Erdman's influence him to a great extent because just like him. So they're lucky to have him, but he's going to retire next year. It'd be a shame if he retires because but then it's so complex now.
Do you remember anything about the athletic teams that you coached in the 60s? And
Oh yes.
some of the athletes that you got to work with?
I'd
teams
have to
you
go.
coached?
I'd have to go back and look at the annuals, but the '67 was a great year.
Harold Kwan.
The Kwan, I had all the families come in. The Kwan brothers. Well, Harold was a cousin to the Francis, Gary, and
Right.
and the engineer, the youngest one,
Harvey?
Harvey. Right? They're all engineers, I believe. And they talking about the Kwans. Esther was one of my first student drivers, and she was pretty nervous. And I remember her. She was a very dedicated student, and she came back as a student. She'd probably give you a lot of
Yeah.
ideas about how she was.
We had an opportunity
Talk
to
to
interview her as
George
well.
Bach, right.
So there's a lot of students that attended Belmont
Mhm.
that came back to teach there as well.
Well, I
Esther
think,
was one. You.
okay, we had Bauer, we had Bell, we had Friedman, we had Hansen. I'm talking about PE now,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Those are right off the top of my head. I can.
Well, Mike Bell was probably he was on that championship football team.
Well, he was 55.
Probably the only city football championship that Belmont's.
I don't think they were.
Won.
They were league champions.
Oh, league champions,
Right.
okay.
What happened with that era was they had 4 major football, basketball, track, and baseball. They won all championship.
Now, you said you enjoyed coaching gymnastics.
Yes, it was very enjoyable because of the fact that it's an individual sport, and the kids are very quiet and they behave well and they're disciplined. If not, I'd throw them out. No.
Do you remember a guy
No.
named Ken Klein that you used to
Oh,
coach?
yeah.
What kind of athlete was he?
Heck of an athlete, the side horse. There's a side horse crew. That's a unique group. They were so tight together, nobody could get in. They had a secret language. But that's the most toughest apparatus. Kenny will tell you. Keep your legs straight. Oh, it's tough.
And then you had Thomas and Richard Yee also that were on that
Richard
team.
Yee, we put them on the rope clamp to develop the strength. And then we used to have a little drill called who's going to put all the equipment away. We used to choose up teams, and the losers would have to put the equipment away. And one thing that came back to me that was a positive thing about that nasty old contest we had was Brian Hishinuma, who's now a fire captain. He said, "Coach Arima, thank you for letting me put all the equipment, the mats, to stack them up on the car truck." That allowed me to get through the physical fitness tests of the fire department. So it came back to me.
I think, and rightfully so, it's quite a tribute to you to have the very gym that you coached in named after you.
But
How
I didn't want that to happen because nobody knows who that person is. So when they asked me, they say they named the gym after. I said, "Who's that?" Well, it was nice, but I wish they didn't do it.
Well, I can't think of anybody that deserves it more, quite honestly.
Thank you for saying that, but still, like I say, that's the way I am.
I know that you subscribe to John Wooden's philosophy
Yes.
about life and coaching. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, at that time, UCLA was a powerhouse, and I used to go to the clinics. That's how coaches learn. So I've been to clinics in Texas, and I've been to one in San Diego. I've been up to San Jose, Las Vegas, where they have these various clinics. And I went to Wooden's clinic that he had every year to show us how he practiced with his kid. Okay, there's the philosophical standpoint. Number one is that first thing is that basketball-wise, teach fundamentals. Okay. Number two was conditioning. 3 was team play. That's how we tried to mold our teams in terms of basketball. So as far as the other part of it, is always be a gentleman principle. Always be a gentleman, number one. Number two, you're a student. And number three comes basketball. So I've tried to use that in all my dealings with the students. And when they ask for a scholarship, because a lot of kids, they're pretty good athletes, right? So they say, I want a scholarship. I said, if you want a scholarship, the best way to get a scholarship is get an academic scholarship. Then you could go to any school that you want to go to according to what your educational goals are, and combine that with a basketball program if you're able to participate in. That's your best way to go. And most people that go out for sports just want a scholarship and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I used to tell them. And then all these young junior high kids with all these trophies that they had, they used to come and show me, Coach, can I be varsity player? I said, don't tell me, show me what you could do.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing about PE, and I'll tell you a funny story. You're going to edit this, aren't you, because some of these things out?
Yeah.
Yeah, they call me the FA teacher. You know what FA teacher is in Spanish?
Head.
FA.
Oh.
F, fail. So come on, hey, Coach, how come you fail me? Because I don't like you. How would you respond to that? I just shook them in the pants there. Number one, you don't come to school. Number two, you don't dress properly for PE. Number three, you participate. How can you pass it? Oh, now I understand. So you know, one of the things that I really am grateful is the fact that I had some great kids all throughout the years, and I had no problems with any kids. Some people had their cars, you know, tires were cut up where they put sugar into the carburetors, you know, and stuff like that.
I think that's because they respect you.
I don't know if it's that.
No, absolutely. What have you done? What are you doing now since you've retired?
Oh, I just love my time. I've been traveling all over. Golf is the one that allows me to go to different places. I'm going to Bangkok in October. I've been to Japan many times thanks to basketball, and thanks to Mr. Iwami, who's the one that started the Sansei basketball program. And since I was able to speak Japanese, I would go to try to help the communication part of it. And I met some great people there. So I've been to Japan, I've been to Canada, okay, I've been to Chicago, played the Whistling Straits where they play the Open. Been to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Texas, Arizona, Montana, Idaho, and Washington. So it's really, I get many trips to Hawaii. So that's, I'm enjoying life. That's why I'm suntan right now. It's dark. So that's what I do. Try to go out and eat.
One of the things we were hoping you could reflect on was, since you'd been a student, at least briefly at Belmont, and then taught for quite a while there, how much Belmont had changed, or at what point it changed from the 60s?
From the 60s, from when I went, not too much, because we had a very solid faculty there that cared for the students, and the students responded by performing to their utmost, so there was a very good relationship with the students and the faculty. So that hasn't changed. It's after 67 it started to change, and the two of the greatest impact of the change was the year-round school had a tremendous impact. It separated the school into three different high schools. That's a tremendous change. And that did not, but the PE department was still solid because we stuck together as a group. So we would rotate based upon our coaching assignments. So we worked it out among ourselves. Yet it wasn't a very tight unit because some of the people were always out. So that was a big negative. But we had to do it because of the students we had.
It's overcrowded.
The other thing was a Title IX, which was came a little too early. They should have prepared sooner so they would have equal gym. Because when they first started, we had a few basketball females in the big gym, sitting in the center circle there and just talking. Well, we had 24 to 28 kids in the small gym, and they're just banging in the wall. It was a hazard because boys, the clearance wasn't that far enough, so that was a bad part of it. And the faculty, again, there was a core of faculty that kept on through the 67 up to the 70s. You had some solid people in every department that carried its weight, and they were well respected. So any person that our top student at Belmont could match up with anybody in the city. That's how much confidence we had in our faculty and the students that we put out. But the thing about Belmont is the ability of the people to get along. I think it's probably a social education at its highest. People got along well together. And we used to get outside people coming in to look to see how people of different background would get along.
Mm-hmm.
It's a melting pot, symbolism of
Yeah.
American
Yeah.
high school.
Now, was year-round schooling introduced at the same time that the new building went up, or because of it, or?
No, later on. When was that year-round came about?
It was right around 1980, I believe.
Late 70s or 80s,
Yeah.
around there. But it can't be helped because of the fact that we have too many students.
When did they take Kersey Hall down and it became, because it used to be a 360 track or 330 track.
Right. Gee, I couldn't tell you that. I'd have to look it up in the contracts of the Board of Education to see where that was. Those things I'm not too familiar with. But we're supposed to open up that Belmont complex, I retired in 1998, and they said it's going to be in cement, it's going to open in 2000, and that shut down. That was a blow. We were all looking forward to going to a new facility. We had input into how to make the facility, where we could the storage and the big gym and what have you. What else did you want?
Well, now they expect to open it next year, but they're gonna call it, Vista or
Something,
Hermosa?
right. And they're going to have living quarters there, and none of the...
So what happens to the Belmont name?
Belmont's going to stay at Belmont, and I think what they're going to do, if I'm not mistaken, is that Belmont's going to be now Belmont with six years of Belmont, middle school and high school combined. Because you have a
Miguel
Contreras
Contreras.
high school over there, and right 3-4 blocks. But they're not too nice. They don't let people from Belmont use their facilities.
I understand that they're going to have their own football team.
Yeah,
They have a nice swimming pool and a baseball diamond.
right. They have everything.
I don't agree with that.
That is not right, But I guess that's why Jack's going to retire.
Any thoughts that you'd like to share with the class of '67 or with?
Oh, I think that's 67 was probably the start of a new era for Belmont. And to remember 67 is a year that Belmont stopped being Belmont like it was when I went to school since 1926. Because when we had that last basketball game, 126 points, the kids got into it, believe something. Everybody got in, and the stands got in. And I got a lot of heat from that from my good friend, Coach Thompson at Lincoln, because he was the one that had to suffer the deluge of 126 points in that small little gym.
Was Wilbur Wright on that team?
No, Wilbur was not on that team. Wilbur played football. They couldn't play basketball.
Oh, okay.
No, we had Jonathan Dyke, who was he was a person that was right across the street from Belmont. There's a church there.
Mm-hmm.
He was with that, so he came over to Belmont. No, we had Pappy DeLoach, Morris Thomas, Harold Kwan, Danny Dominguez,
Yeah.
Rojas, and David Katz. There was a fighter, David Katz. So I had some great kids.
I remember Danny Dominguez.
So, in order to win, you have to have some talent. If you don't have talent, try to produce good kids. Let them realize by hard work you're going to achieve in a different area. So I used to, I guess, have each kid give me a autobiography. I don't know if I did that to you people, but that's what I used to do, to try to get to know the kids. And that was my philosophy. If I knew something about you, then I could maybe know how to deal with you.
I remember that there was a bulletin board in the old gym too that you would put notes on, commending kids who did well, and
Possibly.
we'd always look up there and see.
Well, again, the stats would be statistics. Yeah, but I'll tell you, Belmont was I think the kids were so great. It's difficult to last that many years. Because I was there from 1956 to 1998. That's a long time. Because I had chances to go to the junior college and to other high schools. But I didn't want to start all over again, or what I had already been. Go through that again to establish that my method, because people coming into my classes knew what to expect. So I didn't have to worry too much about discipline. And the paddle they took away was the other means of discipline. I used to have a forehand and a backhand. Which one did I gave them a choice?
Well, Belmont was one of the few high schools that continued to be, when you went out there in PE, they were all dressed.
Dressed and they showered
Yeah.
at that time.
They all had
They
uniforms.
participated. They failed if they had 5 non-dress. And we were, it was real good. You know, I think we probably ran a pretty good people. I guess the best PE program we ran was right after you folks graduated, because we had to convert Kersey Hall into a gym, all the classes. That's when we had wrestling. And then we had to go swimming someplace else. And then
You had to drive off for
limited facility.
gymnastics someplace.
Gymnastics went to Trade Tech. He was nice enough, and I told him, help me out, help these kids out, so he'll have his kids. So he and I would go have tea, you know. We shouldn't be doing that. He invited me, I couldn't refuse. And it was a great, nice setup. I enjoyed that for a year or two. Then they gave me the baseball job. And I can't understand why I was not brought up from the ground up. I should have been possibly a JV baseball coach. They put me varsity baseball. I should have been a B and C basketball coach, then varsity. But in basketball, I helped the head coach there, Mr. Burton. Gave me the B team at that time, it wasn't a JV. So when I showed him what a screen and roll was, you know enough basketball, yeah, I recommend you, whatever. But I think maybe, I should be saying this on, I'll tell you, will you cut if I told you this?
Yeah, I'll cut it out.
What happened is that football was not doing too well at that time. All the good kids were coming out for basketball. Before I got there, basketball was supreme. So everybody's gravitated toward basketball. So in order for the basketball players that were going out for basketball go off, change their mind to go to football, they put a person like me in there. Here I am, that don't look like a basketball player, know nothing about it. Here I'm a science teacher coming in. So they thought, and then it backfired. In 3 years I had the championship with John Keeler. Then the basketball things kept going on there. I'll tell you a funny thing about basketball. We went to the city tournament, Jefferson High School. We win our league, but they always put us against a team like Jefferson, Fremont, Manual Arch, Dorsey, and even we played against Crenshaw with Marcus Johnson. We played in a tournament over there. And then, so at that time we didn't have any basketball bags. We used to use a towel bag for basketball. So the coach used to take the bags. So I'm sitting there over there. And then the coach from Jefferson comes out. Where's the coach? And he's looking around the back. So that was a really funny experience. Another thing I want to say is after I finished Belmont, the teaching, I went into working at the Japanese American National Museum, which is a very nice museum. I want you people to go there and see what it's like. It's a very, very nice museum. Right now they have a gardening unit along with the major part of which concentration camps during the war, 43 to 45, 42, 43. Very interesting to go see, because you don't see a lot of that stuff in your history book.
Yeah, they did a good job with that
They
museum.
did.
Yeah, really good job.
I go there and mostly middle school and elementary school kids get there. But you gotta have enough background for the kids to come there and know what to expect. And then I think it'd be rewarding. So my technique there is just, you don't have to listen to me. But do me a favor. Just keep your mouth closed and let your friend have a chance to learn. That's all I could ask. You do that? Yes. Then I'll put him in line. Get in threes. Listen. With your eyes and your ears, not with your mouth. And they get the message, and we had a pretty good time. Is that it? What
Yeah,
else you
well,
want to know?
that was really good. I want to thank
No,
you.
no problem.
That's-
We'll edit some of that stuff out later.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be much shorter, but there's a lot of good stuff there.
Well, did we cover all that stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to take a look. This is the only chance I'm opening up. I usually don't open up like this, you know. But you know what's
I
what's
think
nice
we
is
covered
that a lot
everything.
of
Is there-
people from Belmont I see once now doing real like yourself and yourself. I'm very proud of you guys. It's all on your own. You know, teachers may give you one little thing and you take off on it, but you have to give yourself credit because you're the one that made it. You know?
You know, if I had to think about it, I'd probably come up with all kinds of things that I learned from you, but there are two things that I remember most. One was more kinds of push-ups than I really cared to learn how to do, and the second was, no matter how you did, when you finish your dismount, if you had fallen on your face or stumbled or really did poorly, act like you meant to do that and represent yourself as having done your best.
That's I think the key, and that's what I used to tell the kids. You know, when we play basketball, give it your best shot. If they beat you, give them the credit, but don't downgrade yourself because you give it your best effort. And learn from that.
I think discipline too was
Yeah,
one of the things that every athlete that you coached learned. I remember, and I don't know if you were on that gymnastics team when I think it was. I can't think of his name right now, but
Arnold Wong.
Arnold Wong did the triple dismount, triple. You told him not to do it.
Double
Double, and
somersault.
he did it anyway. And I remember you went over to the judge and said, disqualify him. He's not supposed to do that. He learned from that. Arnold Wong, that's right.
We had some beautiful judges. Were you with Arnold Wong, Pat Sandican, Mel Della Pina?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember that happening. He might have learned that the year before it came.
Yeah, but
We all used to go to the
gymnastics,
gym and watch the gymnastics.
Yeah, they're pretty good gymnasts. Yeah. The best gymnast, I think, probably is Sam Sakamoto, because he's the one that led us to second place in the city.
Was he at LA or was he
No,
at
that's
Belmont?
the younger brothers. And what happened there was Sam came to Belmont. Coach Bauer had him the first year. Then Coach Bauer went to track and they stuck me with gymnastics. They didn't stick me with it. They didn't take the gymnastics. Okay, I took it over. And then that's what, he would train by himself, film. He was in Japan. And they lived in the LA district, but then we had all the BSL students, NES they call them, non-English speaking at the time. So they would come over to LA High and work out during the weekends, and the LA coach took them all. And one became a National Olympic champion,
Wow.
and the other went to UCLA, one went to
Yeah.
SC. And they're coaching someplace at the university. And the baseball, I think we had the Bayshore, but he wasn't under me. He was under Tanina Louis Gomez, but again, he was a ready-made product.
And what about, did Ron Botchin go to Belmont?
Yeah, Ron Botcha went to Belmont. He was doing the same with Mike Bell and Stan Friedman. They went to Occidental. The one I had was in basketball and baseball was Robert Lyles.
Oh, yeah.
He's the one that.
Yeah. He went on to play professional football for Atlanta Falcons.
What happened was he went to Texas A&M. No, Texas. Was it Texas A&M? What's the horn?
Texas
TCU,
Christian,
Texas
yeah.
Christian. And he was going to quit because he wasn't getting playing time, and I guess he felt that he wasn't given a fair chance because the coaches there, what have you. So he was going to quit. He was going to start all over again. So I took a trip over to TCU and talked to the history teacher that was the sponsor, and we talked him into staying. In his senior year, he finally their coaching changed, and he was selected by the Houston Oilers. So he stayed there, and then from there he went to Falcons, and he came back to the Oilers, and then he went to play Canadian ball and arena football. His ultimate goal is to coach in the NFL, but there was a strike, if you remember, and he was caught between the owners and the players. So from that standpoint, I think he has some kind of a deal with them against the owners, so consequently he may be not in good standing with them, but he had 2 head coaching jobs with the Avengers and
Arena
the Georgia
football.
Bulldogs. But talking to him, he knew all about arena football, how to set it up. So he set it up and they brought somebody else in. So he had a lawsuit to get his money for the 2-year contract he had. So he had some hard times. So he lives in, right by, where's that golf course at the end of 210 freeway?
Zusa Greens? No.
No, way out there in Fontana. That's where he lives now. And Louis Gomez was a baseball. And it's unfortunate, again, wrong place at the wrong time, whatever, because he was drafted by Toronto Blue Jays. But they had Danny Ainge at the same time, same position, so he was second fiddle there. Then he was in Minnesota Twins, and they had Louis Smalley there. That's Gene Mock's nephew, so who do you think's going to play there? So he said, none again. So then he goes over to the Atlanta Braves. There's a guy by the name of Ramirez over there. Again, he's on the bench, but he got his tenure. And he wrote me a nice letter of dedication. And basketball-wise, they went to play in Europe. One, I can come back, it's Greg Slider. And he had a little more family background besides his mother was the one that raised him. He's probably one of the top basketball player we had. And Charlie Thomas, if he worked on his free throws, he would have had a scholarship with Bill Shaw at Cal State LA. And Morris Thomas could jump out of the gym. You see the picture in the annual, oh, he can leap. I don't know how much vertical jump he had. And then we had the Rojas brothers that came through. I told you, I mentioned the Quans.
A lot of good athletes.
Yeah, Mario Rojas got a scholarship to SC. If he went to Washington, I think he probably would have been under that assistant coach of the Lakers, Tex Winter.
Oh,
Because he wanted
triangle offense.
Right. But SC didn't want Mario to go there because they would lose to him, right? So SC put him over there. So I think he's coaching soccer in Inglewood someplace. So he's another. I had a fellow by the Kramer. He's a teacher someplace. Dago Hernandez is a teacher someplace. Erdman would probably know more about these people than I do. I ran across for one time. I got a real nice letter from Kenny Johnson, who's now the assistant coach at Tennessee. Real nice letter. Maybe I should show it to you. I'll show it to you that night if you want to read that. You can.
Yeah.
I didn't know I had that much of an impact on that kid.
I think he
It
had
was
a
very
lot
nice to hear.
impact on a lot of kids.
But he had some, that's another family, Johnson's family. And then the oldest one is a supervisor, a manager for Ralph's Grocery. Yeah, we had some nice kids go through Belmont.
Okay, thanks a lot, Coach.
Okay, you're welcome. Let's drink some water.
Yeah.